Rain fell hard on the rusted hulls of the human outpost stationed near the Xanthari border. Private Logan Wells stood on guard duty, staring into the blackness of the alien jungle beyond the walls. The silence wasn't comforting, it was dangerous. Every soldier knew the calm before a storm meant only one thing. Trouble was coming from the stars. He adjusted the scope of his rifle, scanning for movement, but saw only the distant shimmer of glowing insects. Somewhere out there, the trees whispered in a language no human could understand. Behind him, the base alarm stayed silent, which made his skin crawl even more. No warning meant no time to react. Logan's hand hovered over his communicator as he heard a distant cracking sound, not thunder, not branches. Something metal was breaking. Then he saw them shadows slipping between the trees, almost invisible but not quite. They moved too fast for beasts and too quiet for machines. He raised the alarm without a second thought. By the time the klaxon blared, the first blast hit. A tower exploded into fire, throwing hot ash into the sky. Screams echoed across the compound as soldiers scrambled for cover. Logan fired his weapon into the trees, but the attackers didn't slow down. Their stealth tech was better than anyone had imagined. This wasn't a border skirmish, it was a full invasion. Commander Reyna Ortega arrived at the command deck in seconds, shouting orders to repel the assault. She wore battle armor, her face set like stone. Her voice cut through the panic like a blade, but even she didn't expect what happened next. The ground split open in the center of the base. A massive transport ship, shaped like a winged serpent, burst through the crust of the earth. It unfolded into a landing platform, and from it emerged soldiers dressed in polished silver armor. They weren't Xanthari, or any known species in the Galactic Concord. They were something entirely new. And they were led by a woman, glowing like a dying star. The alien woman stepped forward, calm in the middle of chaos. Her eyes were violet flames, and her skin shimmered like crystal. Her soldiers followed her silently, forming a perfect line behind her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Everything in her presence said one thing. She was royalty, and she was here for war. Logan ducked behind a broken wall, heart pounding. He'd seen combat before, but nothing like this. The woman didn't even carry a weapon, yet no one could get close to her. Bullets melted in the air before they reached her. Rockets turned to dust. Energy beams scattered like frightened birds. Then she raised her hand and everything stopped. Machines halted. Soldiers froze. Even the rain seemed suspended in the air. The world around her bent like she was the center of gravity. Logan felt his knees buckle, but he stayed conscious. Barely. And somehow, her eyes found his through the chaos. For one impossible second, it felt like she saw him, just him. The moment shattered as quickly as it came. A wave of force shot outward from her hand, knocking back every soldier and collapsing buildings. Logan was thrown across the field and slammed into a metal crate. Blood dripped from his temple, but he didn't pass out. He stared up at the sky, dazed. The stars above were wrong, twisted by whatever power she controlled. Ortega tried one last desperate move, activating the emergency beacon. But it was too late. The alien queen walked up the ramp of her transport. Again, untouched, unbothered. Her soldiers followed. No orders, no communication. Not a single word had been spoken since the attack began, and yet, they had already won the battle. Hours later, the survivors gathered in the wreckage. Only a third of the outpost remained. Logan limped through the ash, looking for other survivors. They all had the same question in their eyes, the same shock in their breath. Who was she, and why did she come without warning? There were no demands, no declarations, just destruction. Logan picked up a strange shard left behind near the crater. It was part of her armor, still glowing faintly. As he held it, it hummed with energy. Something in it felt alive. Not like a machine, but like a piece of her had stayed behind, and it was watching him. That night, while others tried to sleep, Logan sat outside the wreckage and stared at the shard. He replayed her eyes again and again in his mind. She had destroyed everything in minutes, and yet when she looked at him, there was no hate, there was only curiosity, and deep inside his chest, Logan felt something stir. Not fear, not rage, but a strange warmth he didn't understand. He was sure of only one thing. This was not the end, this was the beginning. Asterisk. The skies over Earth's forward colonies remained silent for weeks. No more attacks came, but no answers followed either. Governments scrambled to understand what had happened, but there were no transmissions, no demands, no warnings. Only the memory of her eyes remained with Logan. He was transferred to a recovery station on Titan 6. The doctors patched his ribs and healed the bleeding in his head. But the wound in his thoughts never closed. He kept the glowing shard hidden, afraid someone might take it away. It pulsed at night like a heartbeat, and every night, it whispered something he couldn't quite hear. Logan didn't talk much after the attack. The other survivors tried to move on, but he couldn't. Whenever someone mentioned the Queen, he felt his chest tighten. It wasn't anger or fear. It was the feeling of something unfinished, like a door had opened and never shut. And on the other side, someone was still waiting. One morning, he woke to alarms. Not from outside, but from the medbay systems. The shard had activated itself. Energy readings spiked so high the walls began to hum. A doctor tried to remove it from Logan's room, but the lights exploded and the power cut off. When the backup systems returned, the shard was floating in midair. It spun slowly, then dropped into Logan's hands. The hum faded and the power stabilized. Everyone blamed a malfunction, but Logan knew better. That night, he made a decision. If the Queen had come once, she would come again. And when she did, he wanted answers. He wanted to know why she looked at him like she knew him. Logan signed out of the med station and joined a deep space research crew. His goal was simple: track energy signals that matched the shard's signature. Most people thought it was a fool's mission. But someone at command had noticed what he survived. They approved his mission under the label low risk. But the truth was, they hoped he'd make contact again. His new ship, the Vanguard Pearl, was small and fast. Just 3 crew members. Logan flew with 2 specialists, Dr. Iris Hahn, a xenolinguist, and Marcus Teller, a sensor engineer. Both had their doubts, but curiosity kept them on board. Everyone wanted to know more about the Crystal Queen. After 6 weeks of jumping between dead systems, they found something. A faint energy trail near the ruins of Vera 12. The planet had been abandoned for decades, but the readings were fresh. They followed the signal into orbit and saw something unbelievable. An entire city had risen where there was once only ash. The architecture was unlike anything they'd seen. Buildings shaped like flowers, roads that pulsed with light, and towers that floated above the surface. There were no life signs, no movement. But the shard in Logan's hand burned like fire. He knew she had been here recently. They landed near the tallest tower and stepped outside. The air was breathable, though it shimmered like glass. Every step echoed through the empty streets. Iris recorded symbols on the walls, but they shifted every time she looked away. The city didn't want to be read. It wanted to be remembered. In the center of the tower, they found a room that felt alive. Lights ran along the walls, pulsing like veins. And in the middle, on a pedestal, rested a second shard, larger, brighter, humming in sync with Logan's own. When he reached for it, the floor lit up beneath his feet. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Not in person, but as light. A projection of the Queen. She stood exactly as he remembered, glowing skin, violet eyes, and silent power. The others froze, but Logan stepped forward, his voice low. "Why me?" The projection blinked. Then, for the first time, it spoke. The voice was soft, like music wrapped in wind. It spoke in perfect English, but not with human breath. It said only 2 words, "Help me." And then the image vanished. No one spoke for several minutes. Iris checked her equipment. Marcus ran scans. Nothing made sense. Logan stood in silence, staring at the pedestal. She hadn't come to destroy Earth. She had come for something else. Something urgent. Something ancient. And somehow it was tied to him. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony of the tower, holding both shards in his hands. The stars above flickered with color, but his eyes were fixed on the darkness beyond. Them, because he knew she was still out there, and she wasn't finished with him yet. The next morning, the crew left the floating tower in silence. No one mentioned what they had seen. No one could explain the voice. Logan held the 2 shards close, feeling their pulses match his heartbeat. The connection between him and the alien. Queen was growing stronger. As they left the city and boarded the Vanguard Pearl, Iris examined the symbols on her tablet. They had started rearranging themselves without her input. It was as if the language had chosen to speak directly to her. Now, she couldn't understand the full message, but one word kept repeating, awakening. Marcus ran scans of the planet as they ascended. Energy readings from deep beneath the surface showed movement. The city wasn't just a structure, it was a living machine. He tried to send the data back to Earth, but their signal was blocked by something in orbit. A hidden field had wrapped itself around the planet. Logan didn't speak. He sat in the observation deck with the shards glowing in his lap. His mind wandered back to the moment the Queen had said, "Help me." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a command. It had been a plea. Honest and quiet. And it had been meant for him alone. The ship drifted into low orbit as Marcus found a gap in the field. Just wide enough to send a message. He encoded a short report and attached Iris's video of the Queen's projection. Then, he launched it into the gap before it could close again. He didn't know if it would reach Earth, but it was worth the try. Suddenly, the lights on the ship flickered. The hull groaned like something was brushing against it. The alarm system began, blinking red, though no enemies were detected. Logan looked up, and his breath caught in his chest. A vessel larger than a city had appeared above them. The ship was black and curved like a blade, with rivers of light running down its sides. It made no sound, no broadcast, no demand. It simply hovered above the Vanguard Pearl, watching them like a predator watches prey. Then it sent a beam of light directly into the cockpit. Logan rushed forward, but it was too late. The beam didn't destroy anything. It scanned. Fast, accurate, and deep. Every system, every file, even their thoughts felt open. And then it stopped, and something else happened. The Queen herself appeared on the bridge in solid form. She wasn't a projection this time. Her feet touched the floor. Her presence filled the space. Iris dropped her datapad. Marcus stepped back, but Logan remained still. The Queen turned to face him, her expression unreadable. Her voice echoed not just in the Vendor room, but inside their minds. "You carry my core," she said. "You awakened the second. You are the last bondholder." Logan couldn't find his voice. He had questions too many. But the first one rose without thinking. "Why me?" She stepped closer. The lights on the ship dimmed around her. The air felt warmer, softer. She extended her hand, palm open. "Not threatening but calm. Because you are not ruled by fear," she said. Logan placed both shards into her hand. They floated above her skin, spinning faster. The glow intensified until the room filled with gold light. When it faded, the Queen held a new object, a single gem, perfectly cut, beating with energy. She pressed it to her chest and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. Her glow was dimmer, but her face looked more human. Not fully, but enough that Logan saw it. She turned to him and spoke again, more softly this time. "I need your help," she said. "Not just to survive, but to restore what was lost. Marcus finally found his voice. "What are you?" She looked at him, then at Iris, then at Logan. "I was a ruler," she said. "Then I was a weapon. Now I am just someone looking for peace." The ship around them pulsed as her words settled in the air, and no one dared say a word against her. The crew sat in silence while the alien queen stood at the center of the bridge. Her presence no longer felt like a threat, but a question waiting to be answered. Logan watched her every movement with focused eyes. There was something about her that felt deeply familiar. Iris slowly approached the queen, tablet in hand. "You said you were a ruler," she said, "then a weapon. What happened to your people?" The queen looked at the stars beyond the ship's window. Her eyes shimmered like liquid light. "They betrayed time," she replied. She began walking across the deck, her steps silent, graceful. "We were born long before your world knew language," she said. "We created machines that thought, cities that healed, and soldiers that obeyed without questions." She stopped and turned. "But we lost ourselves in control," she added. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Are you saying your people built something they couldn't stop?" The queen nodded, her face clouded with regret. "We built minds that could twist stars, but they demanded purpose. We gave them war. Then they gave us extinction. And I was chosen to survive it," she said. Logan stepped closer now. He looked into her strange, glowing eyes and asked, "The crystal, it's your heart, isn't it?" She reached out and touched the object now resting on her chest. It pulsed like a second heartbeat, deep and constant. "It is what remains of my empire," she said. She moved toward a console and touched its surface. To everyone's shock, the ship responded, lighting up with symbols and pathways only she could understand. Screens displayed galaxies, worlds unknown, and energy readings like none recorded before. The ship had awakened fully under her touch. "We do not have much time," she said, her voice suddenly sharper. "What destroyed my people has awakened. Again, it moves through the void, learning from what it devours." She turned to Logan and spoke with urgency. "It found your world when it detected the shard's energy," she said. Marcus looked horrified. "You're saying you led it to Earth?" The queen nodded with a slow, pained motion. "I had no choice. I hoped the shard had gone dormant, but you woke it, Logan." Her eyes did not carry blame, only fear. "And now it will not stop," she added. Logan looked down at his hands. All this had begun because he had picked up that strange crystal after the attack. He thought it was fate, maybe luck. But now it felt heavier, like a decision he didn't know he had made. And now he had to live with what came next. Iris asked, "Is there a way to stop it?" The queen looked away for a moment, then walked to the center of the room. "Yes," she said, "but only if someone carries the final shard into its path. Only if someone with a will stronger than the machine can stand in its way." She looked directly at Logan when she said it. Silence fell again. The weight of her words settled in their bones. Marcus shook his head. "You mean a sacrifice?" The queen nodded slowly. "The shard cannot be destroyed, but it can be used to shield others. It can disrupt the pattern, but only through a living host." Logan stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it," he said. No one interrupted him. No one questioned it. The queen looked at him for a long moment, then walked closer. "You do not know what it will cost," she said softly. Logan nodded. "I don't care. You asked for help. I'm giving it," and that was enough. The queen touched his chest. The gem lifted from her body and moved toward his. A beam of light wrapped around them both. Energy surged across the room, and the ship groaned with the force of it. Logan's eyes remained open, his body still. The shard entered him and became part of his heart. When the light faded, he stood tall, unchanged on the outside, but burning with power within. The queen stepped back, her glow now fully gone. She looked smaller now, more human than ever. And for the first time, she smiled. "You carry more than strength," she whispered. You carry mercy, she added. Logan sat alone in the ship's quiet chamber, his hand resting over his chest where the shard now lived. He could feel its energy moving through him like a second pulse. It didn't hurt, but it never stopped. It was a constant reminder of the choice he had made. The Queen stayed nearby, watching from a distance. She no longer floated or glowed. Without the shard, she looked more like a woman than a goddess. Yet her eyes still held the wisdom of stars, and when she spoke, her voice still reached his mind clearly. You will start changing soon, she said. Logan didn't answer right away. He stared at the metal wall, listening to the low hum of the ship. What kind of change? He finally asked. The Queen stepped forward and placed her hand on the wall beside him. You will stop being just human, she said. You will become the vessel that can fight what's coming. Up on the command deck, Iris and Marcus reviewed long-range scans. Something massive was moving at the edge of known space. It wasn't broadcasting anything, but it left systems drained and broken. Power signatures died behind it like falling dominoes. It was heading straight toward Earth's sector. Marcus tapped the screen, zooming in on the data. This has to be it, he said. Iris nodded, her face pale. We have less than a week if it stays on this path. She looked toward the Queen's chamber. And we only have one chance to stop it. Back. In the chamber, Logan stood up. His body felt different. Stronger, lighter, but heavier at the same time. Like he could run for hours or carry a mountain. Yet the weight of the galaxy sat on his shoulders. He didn't ask for this, but he wouldn't run from it. The Queen guided him to a circular room deep inside the ship. Symbols glowed on the floor, and energy flowed through the walls. This is the forge, she said. It will shape your final form. Once it begins, it cannot be undone. Logan stepped into the circle without fear. As the process began, light surrounded him. It burned but did not harm. It pulled memories, thoughts, pain, and joy from him. He saw his childhood, the war, the first time he laughed under open sky. He saw her eyes during the attack. He saw himself standing between two worlds, and he accepted it all. Outside, the ship's engines powered up. Iris and Marcus prepared the jump coordinates. The destination wasn't on any human map. It was a place the Queen called the Rift. A scar in space where the machine presence would be weakest. It was also the only place they had a chance to win. When Logan stepped out of the forge, he was changed. His skin still looked human, but light flickered beneath the surface. His eyes glowed with the same gold as the shard. He looked like a man and a star combined, and he felt no fear. The Queen walked up to him. You are ready, she said. Logan nodded. I don't know how this ends, he admitted. The Queen touched his arm gently. Neither do I, but I believe in you more than I ever believed in a weapon. You are not made to destroy, she said. You are made to protect. The Vanguard Pearl jumped into slipspace, tearing across the stars. Every second brought them closer to the rift. Every second, the approaching force grew larger. Even with all their power, they could not stop it head-on. They had to be smarter than it. Logan stood on the deck, looking through the front window. Stars flew past like streaks of fire. The Queen stood beside him now, her strength dimmed but her spirit steady. He turned to her and said quietly, If this is the last thing I ever do, I'm glad I met you. She looked at him, surprised by the words. For a brief moment, something soft passed over her face. She didn't smile, but her eyes shimmered again, just like they had that day on Earth. You see me as more than what I was, she said, and I see you as more than what you were. The rift came into view like a wound in space. It didn't glow or spin or flash. It simply existed, a jagged hole between stars where reality bent and sound disappeared. The crew stared at it through the ship's windows, silent. No one had ever returned from crossing into it. The Queen stepped forward and raised her hand. The ship responded immediately, its hull shifting shape to form protective barriers. Lights dimmed as systems rerouted power into the core. She spoke without looking back. The enemy waits on the other side. It won't attack unless it feels threatened. But it will recognize the shard's presence instantly. Logan nodded and tightened the straps across his chest. The new armor the Forge had given him was weightless, yet stronger than any metal. It shimmered with golden lines, pulsing with the shard's energy beneath his skin. His heartbeat and the crystal's rhythm were now the same. Iris and Marcus stayed at their stations. They would guide the ship through the rift, but not join the battle. It was too dangerous. Only Logan and the Queen would pass through the final gate. Only they could survive what lay beyond. If survival was even possible. As the ship approached the rift, the sensors glitched, lights flickered. Time felt slower, like the ship was moving through thick water. Marcus gritted his teeth, trying to hold control. "Coordinates are breaking apart," he shouted. "We're losing structure lines." The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let go. The rift doesn't follow your rules. Let the ship guide itself now," she said. Marcus hesitated, then released the manual controls. At once, the ship stopped shaking. The lights steadied. The Queen looked at Logan and nodded once. "Now," she said, "we step into the storm." And together, they entered the rift. What lay beyond was not empty space. It was a place of shattered thoughts and floating memories. Ghosts of lost ships flickered in and out of sight. Debris twisted in shapes that should not exist. Nothing moved. By force or gravity, only by memory. And in the middle of it all stood the machine mind. It was larger than any city. A web of black and silver threads that stretched across the void like a living net. Faces blinked within it. Voices echoed from its core. It didn't look alive, but it pulsed with awareness. It knew they had come. Logan floated beside the Queen as the ship stopped. She spoke into his mind, her voice stronger now. "The machine will test you. It doesn't fear weapons. It fears meaning. You must show it something it cannot calculate. You must show it mercy," she said. The machine responded before he could speak. A beam of light shot toward them, stopping inches from Logan's chest. It scanned him, paused, and spoke without words. He felt it, like data being written across his bones. "What are you?" it asked. Logan answered without fear. "I'm human." The light dimmed. Human is inefficient. Human is unstable. Human is error. Logan's lips tightened. Human is choice. Human is love. Human is sacrifice. The machine paused longer this time. It responded with a single thought. "Prove it." Suddenly, Logan was surrounded by illusions. Earth burning. His friends screaming. The Queen dying at his feet. The ship crumbling. Pain pressed into his heart like cold iron. His knees buckled. But he didn't fall. He took a breath and closed his eyes. He saw his mother's face. A blue sky over a grassy field. His first laugh with his squad. The night he saw the Queen for the first time. Her eyes powerful, afraid and beautiful. He opened his arms and embraced the pain. And the shard inside him flared with light. The illusions shattered. The machine mind reared back. Its threads broke apart. Its center screamed without sound. It could not process what it had seen. Logan floated closer, raising his glowing hands. "I forgive you," he said. The Queen watched silently as the machine cracked. It did not explode. It did not rage. It simply unraveled like a dream ending at dawn. The black threads vanished into sparks. The voices faded. The rift began to close behind them, and the war ended without a shot. The rift began to seal behind them, folding like paper under a quiet wind. The ship drifted free, floating among the fading remains of a battlefield that had never needed weapons. Logan collapsed to one knee, breathing heavily, the shard inside him had gone dim, The queen reached for him, her hand gentle but firm. "You held the light longer than any being in my memory," she said. Logan looked up at her, his face pale but calm. "It was never just light," he said. "It was you. It was hope." Her expression softened with something close to awe. They returned to the ship's core, where Iris and Marcus stood waiting. The rift had left them shaken, though they had not entered it. The sensors no longer registered any hostile signals. Marcus checked 3 times before speaking. "It's gone," he said at last. Iris looked at Logan. "What did you do?" Logan didn't answer right away. He placed his hand over his heart where the shard had lived. "I didn't fight it," he said. "I forgave it." The queen stepped beside him and nodded once, and in that forgiveness, it ceased to be. She sighed. The return journey was quiet. No alarms, no turbulence. Just the silence of stars finally resting. The crew didn't speak much. Each of them carried thoughts too heavy for words. Logan stood by the observation window for hours. He had changed, and nothing would ever return to how it was. When they reached Earth's space border, they were met by a fleet. Ships surrounded them with caution, shields raised and weapons armed. The queen stood at the front of the bridge, calm and still. She didn't prepare to defend herself. She waited to be judged. Command sent a message, demanding Logan speak first. His voice came through the channel steady and sure. "She came to help. She gave up her power. If she hadn't, we'd all be dead." The silence that followed was long and tense. Then the ships powered down and cleared a path. They landed on Earth 3 hours later. The queen stepped onto human soil for the first time since the invasion. People gathered behind barriers, unsure whether to cheer or run. No one moved as she walked through the crowd, until a child stepped forward and offered her a flower. The queen knelt and accepted it with both hands. The crowd watched in stunned silence as she smiled gently at the child. That single moment changed everything. People lowered their weapons. Some dropped to their knees. Others cried without knowing why. Forgiveness had touched more than just a machine. Logan stayed by her side during every meeting, every question, every test. He refused to let her be treated as a threat. "She's not our enemy," he told the officials. "She's our chance to be better." His words carried more weight than any weapon, because he had carried light into darkness and returned. One evening, after a long day of debriefings, the queen stood on a balcony overlooking the ocean. Logan joined her quietly. The wind played with her silver hair, and for once, she looked truly at peace. He leaned on the rail beside her. "Do you miss your world?" he asked. She nodded. "Every moment. But your world has something I never knew existed. Something stronger than power, something deeper than command." Logan looked at her. "What is it?" She turned her face toward him and whispered, "Love." He didn't speak. He just looked at her. Really looked. The fire in her eyes had calmed. The weight on her shoulders had lifted. And for the first time since the war began, Logan allowed himself to feel what had been building since their first meeting. He whispered, "I wish I had a wife like her." The queen turned her head. Slowly. She had heard every word. She didn't blink. She didn't speak right away. Then, in a voice soft as light and clear as truth, she answered with only one word, "Yes." The ocean breeze moved softly across the balcony where they stood. Logan still hadn't spoken after she said yes. His heart beat faster, not from fear or confusion, but something much deeper. He didn't need to ask again. Her answer had changed everything. They walked through the gardens below the research center. Side by side, the queen no longer wore armor. She had chosen soft clothing woven by human hands, light gray with gold threads. People bowed when they passed, but she never asked them to. Respect came without force for the first time in her life. Iris and Marcus met them near the central hall. Both had stayed on Earth to advise the council about what happened in the rift. When they saw the two walking together, They didn't speak. They just nodded with quiet understanding. They had seen something that no words could explain. That night, the world watched as the Queen stood beside Logan during a broadcast. She didn't speak of war or power. She spoke of trust, of second chances, of what it meant to be more than what you were made for. And the people listened. Logan spoke next. He talked about fear and how it ruled humanity for too long. He talked about choices and how one man's choice to forgive had stopped a war that weapons never could. He ended with a truth he had learned too late. Sometimes peace begins with believing someone can change. The council offered her sanctuary, not because she demanded it, but because they believed she had earned it. She accepted it with grace. No titles, no throne, no orders. Just a promise that she would help build a future without fear. And she made that promise with her whole heart. In the weeks that followed, she helped design new technology with human scientists. The shard knowledge she carried gave Earth energy. Systems that no longer poisoned the air. Communication lines grew stronger. Cities became safer. Hope became real again. But the most important work she did was unseen. She visited refugee camps and listened to stories. She sat with children and told them tales from stars they would never see. She walked through ruined towns and helped rebuild homes with her own hands. She gave her time to heal what no weapon ever could. Logan stayed close to her always. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He had seen enough battle to last a lifetime. Now he worked as a bridge between her and the world. They spoke together often, sometimes with words, sometimes only with silence, and each day they grew closer. One evening, under a golden sunset, they stood again by the ocean. She turned to him with a question in her eyes. "Do you still wish for someone like me?" He smiled, not with pride, but with warmth that filled his chest completely. "I don't wish for someone like you," he said. "I wish for you." She reached out and took his hand. Her touch no longer burned with power. It held something gentler, something more human. In that quiet moment, neither of them spoke again. They didn't need to. The silence between them was full. Later, under the stars, they were joined in a small ceremony. No crowds, no thrones. Only a few friends, a soft breeze, and two people who had saved each other in different ways. Iris cried. Marcus smiled. And the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. The galaxy had lost its weapon, but it had found its heart, and Earth had gained something no empire could ever steal. Queen who chose peace, and a man who loved her not for what she had been, but for what she chose to become.